Hi, this is Matt from the Teens for Life program at Crisis Support Services of Alameda County, and we are going to spend a few minutes talking about helping a friend. Crisis Support Services is a local nonprofit in Alameda County, and we do a number of different things. We're mostly known for being Alameda County's crisis hotline, but we also offer counseling services and our education department, which is where I'm coming from speaking to you today. Before we talk about helping a friend, a couple of things we want to keep in mind is that although in this presentation I'm not going to go into any specific details about topics like depression or suicide, we might be thinking about these topics when we consider helping a friend. So it's important that when we are going to think about these topics or listen to a presentation on them, we could at times feel triggered or overwhelmed, which could be okay and common. And so we want you to feel safe and comfortable and focused to be able to watch this video. And sometimes people do feel like they want to take a pause and they might need support. So if that happens to be the case, there's a couple of numbers here that you could call. For instance, Alameda County's crisis hotline at 800-309-2131 and speak to a counselor privately right now. And if you are having a medical or physical emergency, of course, call 911. And our presentations are intended for ages 10 to 21. But when we talk about helping a friend, the content in this presentation really could be helpful to all age ranges. We're going to focus in on a couple of key things here. The first topic is to talk about this word stigma. Then we'll share some key ideas to helping a friend. And then we've got some important support phone numbers for you to have access to and to know about. You probably already know about a couple of them right now, so we'll refresh our memory. Importantly is if you were to come away with one thing from our chat today is I can help a friend and I don't have to do this alone. When we think about helping a friend, we're typically noticing something's changed. And so maybe it's something that our friend has said, or there's a behavior change, or something with their mood seems different than normal. Or maybe it's just we have a hunch something's different. And all of these are really important things to be aware of when things are changing for a friend. And it leads us to the question, look, what can I do? How can I help? Now, the thought bubbles that we have here are general. We're not going into detail, but if you wanted to go into more detail about warning signs, for instance, about depression or about suicide, our Teens for Life channel has a number of super helpful videos in addition to this one, and you could watch those and learn more if you haven't already. Let's talk about this word stigma. So there are barriers that people experience when reaching out for help or thinking about helping somebody that we notice is in distress or experiencing changes. So this is a word that's linked to judgment or shame or stereotyping. And in society with mental health topics, for instance, like depression or the topic of suicide, there are many different ways people look at this. And depending on how people look at it, people may feel that they experience discrimination or they're outcast, or maybe they feel like, depending on how they identify or their cultural identities, that they're not supposed to talk about certain things, or they don't even know what they're experiencing. So having a situation where people feel like they can't reach out for help or don't know they can reach out for help is really hard. And it's also hard if somebody wants to help but doesn't know that it's okay to help. So we want to reduce stigma, increase the understanding of others and the acceptance of others, especially when they're having a hard time. And this is all about showing that people care and that healing can happen. As helpers, we're reaching out to someone that we see needs help because sometimes it can be too hard for them to ask. When we're thinking about helping people, sometimes people consider like they need to know the perfect things to say, or they have to have had the same experience for someone to understand. And the thing is, we don't have to have had the same experiences or necessarily even the same beliefs that other people have to be able to be helpful. People can have different values and outlooks and experiences and still be helpful to each other. what's most important, we're trying to cross barriers to have have a conversation, to communicate with people. And whether we are similar or different from somebody else when we're reaching out and helping somebody, it's common to be afraid to have difficult conversations. So we can normalize that. Even if you have a lot of experience or feel super confident, it might still be a little scary. And that would be really understandable. The bottom line is, when we're asking about somebody and we're offering help, however that feels, if it's easy or hard or scary, whatever's going on, we're showing that we care. So as we're getting ready to ask, let's check ourselves out. So you want to see, am I okay enough to have this conversation with a friend? And you could be checking out like how your body feels, or if you're feeling any anxiety. Sometimes we could be a little nervous and still feel okay enough to talk. So if we're okay, all right, that's what the next several slides are about. And now sometimes we might be like, ooh, this might not be the right time. So maybe we need help. Maybe we need to consult with somebody. And even if we do need to get help for ourselves first, or we think maybe I'm not the right person, maybe there's somebody else, there are things we can do, like give out helpful numbers or get trusted adults involved. Our friend can still be helped even if we're not going to be the first direct person to do it. You can be really helpful even if you're not having a conversation. So either way, let's check out the next couple of slides and learn more about talking with a friend and offering help. So here's the 4 areas that we're going to focus on: listening openly and compassionately, starting the conversation, getting trusted adults involved, and then we've got a bunch of support numbers that we will show you for your consideration that can help anybody. So listening openly and compassionately, this is kind of like getting our helper's hat on. We're going to get ready to have a conversation. So we're thinking about, we're going to have this conversation with a friend. We want to pick a place and a time that feels safe and confidential, where a person can feel like they can open up if we anticipate they're going to talk about something serious. And we're going to think about this thing called active listening. And this means that we're going to be paying attention, really hearing what the person's saying. Remember, it's about what's going on for your friend, and you don't have to have had the same experience or necessarily even relate. Now, if you do, that's helpful too. But again, don't put pressure on yourself like you have to be an expert instantly on stuff. And take the pressure off yourself that you have to solve what's going on. Just listen and pay attention. Often that's what's most helpful. Whatever's going on might take a little while and more help than you can give in just one conversation for things to change for your friend. So we're just going to think about validating what's being said, hearing the person, showing we're paying attention. And also, let's take pressure off of us as helpers. If someone's having a hard time, they might not instantly look or act like or just tell us that they're feeling better because their situation's not instantly changing. But have confidence that you reaching out and listening, that often for most people is super helpful and does help people feel better, because you're offering connection and you're paying attention and you're showing that you care. So we've checked out that we're ready to have the conversation. We've picked a good spot to do it. Next, we're going to open up with expressing concern, because sometimes when people are having the conversation, they might wonder, well, why are you talking to me? What is this about? So we're going to be direct and tell people what we've noticed, and we're going to express our concern. And there's a couple of ways that we might do that. These are just examples that you might consider. I'll read these out real quick. You've been way more quiet lately. I'm really worried about you. What's going on? I've noticed you haven't been online as much. What's happening? You made a joke about something pretty heavy. Were you actually joking? That third one's pretty important, because sometimes people are uncomfortable. They don't know how to communicate what's going on, or they're scared about that. So sometimes people might use humor as a way to talk about something really serious, and we can check that out too. Now, again, we're not going to go into specific details about warning signs about topics like suicide, but we can know that it's okay to be direct. In fact, it's really helpful because we're getting specific. And oftentimes, if a person is having a difficult experience, us being direct helps them talk about what's really happening. So if it was about a topic like suicide, you could say things like, are you thinking about suicide? Have you been thinking about killing yourself? I recommend pausing the video here and looking at these and maybe practicing out loud if that feels safe and comfortable for you right now, because it's one thing to listen to this, it's another thing to hear your own voice say it, and it's good to practice. Now, when we're doing all this communication, we're being authentic and honest. The spirit is, I really care about you. I'm asking because I want you to have help. And it might help to know that you asking could be pretty challenging. And for your friend to tell you what's going on, that could be really hard and scary and very vulnerable too. So it can be a challenging thing emotionally. But the thing is however you ask, using your own true words, your authenticity, it's super helpful. And you're asking because you care. And friends typically, even if it's hard to do the conversation, they'll know that that's true. In addition to you being brave and reaching out to your friend and showing that you care and that you pay attention and listening to them, let's get a trusted adult involved. Now, with things that we're talking about with mental health related topics, especially, this is super crucial because adults are going to have not only access to some resources that maybe we don't have access to, but it's also helpful so that other people know about your friend and they know that you've been involved in talking about some serious topics that are difficult. And that way we have more people involved that are engaged to be a support network to your friend who needs help. And we can think about who are those trusted adults. And it's different for different people. So here we might think about parents or relatives, teachers, coaches, counselors. It's different for different people. Sometimes our friend might not instantly have an idea of who that is. So maybe you might be able to suggest somebody. Sometimes it could be like maybe you know somebody and you can suggest that adult, and that adult would be open to talking to your friend. The entire reason we're thinking about this is that last bullet, it's in bold there, preserve life over friendship. We're asking because we care, even if it's a tough talk, even if a friend might feel scared to let other people know, or you're worried that your friend's going to think that you're betraying their trust. We're aiming at something bigger, which is getting help so things don't stay stuck the way they are now, that things can get better. And you can take a moment and consider who your trusted adults are too, because that's helpful for us all to know of who would I go to if I needed help. Here's some phone numbers. You saw this earlier in the presentation. Here they are again. The top number is Alameda County's crisis hotline, 800-309-2131. Our counselors at this crisis hotline can talk about all kinds of different topics. The word crisis line can sometimes make people wonder, is what I'm talking about a crisis? But really anything that you want to talk to a counselor about privately is an okay topic. So feel free to talk about anything. The phone number is open 24/7. It's free. Translations available. There's also a text line. You see that in the middle of the screen. The keyword is SAFE to 20121. Not 24/7, but 4 to 11, English only. But you can chat with one of our counselors, and all of them are highly trained, very experienced, and can be really helpful. And again, they're free and they're private, except if there is a threat of some kind of harm. And counselors will let you know about that. And you can always ask about that. You don't have to say or share anything that you don't want to share. Counselors are there to help. Here are 3 other phone numbers that could be helpful. You might want to pause the screen, take a screenshot so you have these 2, and you can do a little more research on your own. I won't take the time to do that here, but it's nice to know there are many phone numbers that can be helpful to people. So we like adding these as well. We're almost done. Here's our closing thoughts. When you notice that something is different for a friend, be brave, reach out, let them know that you care, that you're concerned, let them know what you're concerned about, and be direct. Get help from a trusted adult. You don't have to do this alone. Don't do this alone. The more people involved, the better. That way, everyone's got other people they can rely on and talk to, and we're not holding this all to ourselves. Remember, asking directly won't make things worse. Asking directly helps a lot. We're expressing concern, we're being authentic. Even if the conversations can feel challenging, it'll be okay. We're trying to get people help so things can get better. And remember, there's crisis lines, different support lines available. We had that in the previous screen. I'll have that in just another moment for you too. Remember, it's helpful sometimes for people to have many ways to reach out to many people throughout the day when they're experiencing challenges, and phone numbers can be one of those really helpful supports. This is super important. If you're a helping person, you're thinking about helping a friend, also take care of yourself. Remember, we talked about thinking about getting ready to have this talk. Also think about what you do after the talk, after you've helped your friend. Helping people can take energy and focus, and then also can have an impact on you. So it's important that just like we're thinking about helping a friend, we can use these same things to consider how to take care of ourselves so we do okay too. Here's our last slide, everybody. Same phone numbers, the crisis line numbers. We have these as a general reference, and our text line information there too. Remember, 24/7. Anyone can call about any topics. And also we've got our additional super helpful videos about topics like depression and suicide and warning signs. We've also got our social media information here, so you can check that out and stay up to date with us. The spirit is you can help a friend, and make sure you take care of yourself too. Take care of your friends and take care of yourself. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope you do well. See you next time.